Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of the Fall of Icarus. This will be Part 17, Chapter 17, entitled Izuku Flies Once More. Are you sure you're ready for this, Izuku? Shota asked quietly. It was now Thursday, and Shota, Hawks, and Nezu had designed a new training exercise for the class to test out. Izuku could still hardly believe that All Might had truly been fired, and Hawks had been hired as his replacement. Izuku nodded. It's been 2 days now of being back in classes. I think I can finally participate in a training exercise. He was still freaking out about having called him Dad in front of his friends the other day, and had yet to say it to his face. As long as you feel comfortable enough, Shota said, with a smile, ruffling Izuku's hair. Izuku waved to him as he headed out of the classroom and met his friends in the hallway. What'd the hobo want? Kacchan huffed as they started walking towards the changing rooms. To be a helicopter dad, First laughed. Izuku shook his head, trying to hide his laughter as he grabbed Kacchan's hand. He was just checking in with me to make sure I was comfortable with joining everyone in this. He's such a dad, Hitoshi chuckled. Yeah, I never thought we'd get to see Aizawa being so soft, Shoto admitted. He already had Eri, Izuku laughed. He was plenty of a dad before I joined him. She's too cute to not be soft around, Nana complained. Izuku tried to shush them, but he knew it wouldn't work. Fair enough, Hitoshi laughed. Speaking of, Kacchan smirked, have you called him Dad to his face yet? Izuku turned and smacked his boyfriend's shoulder. Shut up, he hissed. Of course I haven't. I've only just barely started calling them by their first names. Izuku buried his face in his hands as Kacchan chuckled and threw an arm around his shoulders, pulling him in close. Let's just get changed and kick everyone's ass, Kacchan smirked, pushing open the door to the locker rooms. Sounds good, Kacchan, Izuku laughed, glad for the subject change. He grabbed his hero costume case out of his locker and set it on a bench, and changed into it as quickly as possible before following his friends to the training grounds, where the rest of their class was slowly gathering. All right, chicks, Hawks called out. Everyone's here, so let's go over the details and the rules of today's exercise. Nezu peeked out from behind one of Hawks's wings and clapped his paws together. Today we will be conducting team versus team battles. You've all had enough training at this point, as well as real-time experience, that this should be a comfortable setting. This will help you in the future to remember that teamwork is important, and sometimes in a battle you don't get to choose who you're working with. All right, there'll be 4 teams of 5 people, which means that there'll be 2 different battles today, Hawks continued. And no, you're not choosing your own teams, he added as some people started grouping up. Izuku grabbed Kacchan's hand again and squeezed it, as he thought of who he might get placed on a team with. I've put together the teams, and there will be no arguing, swapping, or anything else of the sort, Shota said, coming up from behind the 2 teachers. A couple of the students voiced their complaints at this before Hawks raised a hand to quiet them. All right, before we go over the teams, let's get into what exactly you'll be doing. Each team will have their own base to defend, Nezu announced. They will be on opposite sides of the map, and you'll essentially be playing Capture the Flag. There will be a flag posted inside each of your bases that will need to not only be grabbed, but brought back to your own base. You will only win if you have both flags or if the time runs out and you're the only one with a flag. You will also be given capture tape, Hawks announced. I assume that you're all familiar with this from previous exercises. Izuku and some of his other classmates nodded their affirmation. Good. If the time runs out and both teams still have their flag, the next thing we'll look at is how many members you still have on your team. All in all, Shota finished, your goal is not simply a game of retrieving your opponent's flag, but also in capturing as many of your opponents as possible. What if both teams have their own flags and the same number of teammates? Kaminari asked. Then it will be a draw, and we'll let the next battle play if needed. Then have you retry, Nezu answered. Any other questions? What if we don't feel safe with our other team members? Uraraka asked, cutting a glare at Izuku and his friends. Izuku rolled his eyes. There will be times when you're a pro and either do not like or are not able to trust those you're teamed up with, Shota said. No matter the circumstance, the objective of your mission and keeping civilians safe is your priority. You must learn to overcome your dislike or distrust of others if you wish to succeed as a hero. All right, if there's no other questions regarding the exercise, then we'll go ahead and announce the teams, Nezu said, clapping his paws together. Nobody said anything, so Shota stepped forward and pulled out a tablet. Team 1, Bakugo, Midoriya, Todoroki, Shinso, and Kaminari. Team 2. Izuku quickly turned to Kacchan, eyes gleaming in surprise and excitement. All of his friends would be working together. They could totally beat whoever they came up against. Of course he put us on the same team, nerd, Kacchan whispered, laughter lacing his voice. He's your dad, and protective as hell, even though he only gained custody of you like 3 days ago. I'm telling you, helicopter dad, Yoichi cried out. Izuku nodded, not able to wipe the smile off of his face as he turned back to the teachers, noticing that Shota was already finishing his list. First up will be Team 1 versus Team 2. Team 1 will follow me into the city, and Team 2 will follow Hawks. The rest of you will follow Nezu up to the command room, where we'll be able to announce everything as we watch the battles, Shota said. Shit, Izuku hissed. Who's on Team 2? He asked, turning to Hitoshi and Shoto. Hitoshi snorted. Aizawa would ground you if he heard you ask that. He'd actually probably expect it, and sighed in an exasperated manner. Izuku punched his shoulder, but luckily Shoto came to his rescue. Team 2 consists of Uraraka, Ida, Asui, Aoyama, and Hagakure. Oh, they're so gonna get fucked, Banjo laughed. Izuku sighed as he realized there was no way they'd be quiet during this exercise now. Hey guys, Kaminari shouted as he skipped over. Looks like I'm with you. Hope you're ready to win, dunceface, Kacchan said with a smirk, cracking his knuckles. I've been waiting for a school-sanctioned beating of those assholes. Denki laughed off Kacchan's statement, but his smile slowly dropped as he took in Shoto and Hitoshi's agreeing nods and Izuku's own fierce look of determination. Let's go to Aizawa and get started, Izuku said, already thinking of several different strategies to beat the other team. The faster we get there, the more planning time we have. I'm headed into a war, Kaminari groaned as he followed the group towards Shota. The other team was still forming, so they were already one step ahead as they reached Shota and he waved for them to follow. As soon as they were all inside the actual testing grounds, Shota finally spoke up. All right, the team pairings were not fully my decision, so please do not kill one another, he sighed. He means he didn't want you paired against your recent bullies, Second scoffed. I bet the rat did this so you could prove everyone that they've been thinking wrong. We're here to win, not get expelled and arrested, Izuku chirped before looking at his boyfriend, effectively ignoring the vestiges at this point. I mean it, Kacchan. Tell him he'll have extra guests at your next date if he doesn't let you work your magic, Banjo laughed. It would be their first date, actually, Nana corrected. Izuku rolled his eyes as he leaned in to whisper in Kacchan's ear. The vestiges are threatening to be present at our first date if you don't listen. Kacchan huffed and looked away. Fine, I won't kill the assholes. Thank you, Shota nodded, leading them through a cityscape. That being said, he turned to look mischievously at Izuku. I do expect you to give them absolute hell. Izuku smirked up at his parent/teacher. Oh, trust me, Shota. They will never be the same. Shota nodded as he took them inside a building. All right, this is where you'll be beginning the exercise, he explained, leading them through a hallway and into an office. And here's your flag. Was this Nezu's idea? Izuku asked, looking at the red flag sitting on the desk. He had this plan since before you even got released from the commission, Shota sighed. That being said, we all believe that you all are capable of winning this exercise. Ha! Fucking called it, Second cheered. Of course you did, love. Yoichi laughed. With Izuku as our mastermind, Hitoshi asked, slinging an arm over Izuku's shoulders. We could beat anyone. Damn straight, En huffed. Shota ducked his head into his scarf in a telltale way of hiding his smile. I don't doubt it. I'm going to head back now, and the battle will begin as soon as both Hawks and I are in the control center. See you when we win this thing, Kachan said with a smirk and a two-finger salute. Shota rolled his eyes as he left the building, and Izuku took a seat at the desk chair, looking over the materials laid out on the desk. All right, everyone grab a headset and capture tape, Izuku commanded, grabbing his own materials before turning to the map. There was a red pen next to it, so he used it to circle their base's building before turning to the others. I apologize for how I may act in this exercise, but given that we have a red flag, I'm assuming that we are essentially the villains, while the other team are the heroes. I'm willing to risk everything to prove to them that I am here to be a hero just as much, no, twice as much as they are. If I need to enter a villain's mindset, then so be it. Just give us the rundown already, Izu, Hitoshi huffed, rolling his eyes. Kaminari looked a bit nervous, but just as determined as Izuku's friends, so he nodded and continued, moving to look at the map again. Here is our base, Izuku said, tapping the building they were in. Which leads me to believe the other base is... Izuku drew the pen down the map, tapping a similar building. Right here, he said, circling it. We will need defenders, attackers, and retrievers, but given that we only have 5 people on our team, I think that we should only have 1 retriever. I like this kid more and more every day, En said proudly, making Izuku blush. It should be you, Shoto said. You've the most versatile quirk of all of us, which lets you fight more than just one person at a time easily. Izuku nodded and wrote down the categories of people on the side of the map. All right, I want Hitoshi and Kaminari on defense, and Shoto and Kachan on offense then. Sounds good to me, Kachan said, crossing his arms and leaning against the chair that Izuku sat in. How are we going to scare them exactly? Everybody shut up, Third said. I want to hear this. There were a couple of protests, but eventually they quieted after Nana knocked a few of them over the head. Nobody knows just how many quirks I have, Izuku said when the vestiges finally quieted, looking at the group with a smirk. While I'm on my way to retrieve the flag, I can use smokescreen to provide a cover for you and distract the other team. I'm sure that they'll be targeting me and will assume that we were either given different materials to start with, or they'll know it's my doing. If they'll be targeting you, then we should all head out together so that we can provide backup, Shoto said. Izuku shook his head. Well, no, but yes. I want us to head out at the same time, but I want you guys to stick to the street while I take to the roof. Uraraka might be up there, but I can send her back down to you with Air Force or capture her on my own. What about Asawi? Hitoshi asked. She can use her tongue to maneuver Uraraka or get to the roofs herself. Izuku nodded. She can, but we also have to think of their own strategy. Ida will probably be the retriever because of his quirk, and they'll send Hagakure as backup. Uraraka will want to come after me, so she'll be on offense. That leaves Aoyama and Asawi. Part of Asawi's quirk is being able to blend in with the space if she stays still long enough, so they'll probably have Aoyama out front and Asawi inside. Kachan nodded. That leaves them with only 1 person on offense, though. Do you really think that they'd do that? They might send Ida as a mock retriever and really have him on the offense, Kaminari suggested. Exactly my thoughts, Izuku nodded. All right, everyone, Hawks called out over their headsets and the speakers. The battle has officially begun. Go get those flags. Showtime, Banjo cheered, the others quickly shouting excitedly as well. Let's go, Izuku said, waving to Shoto and Kachan as he stood from the chair. Ida can get here within 2 minutes if he goes all out immediately. Should we stay here? Kaminari asked as Izuku walked out the door. However you believe to be the best bet for defending the flag, Izuku called out. Though I believe mixing electricity and engines isn't very pretty. Yeah, don't be a dumbass, Second snickered. Do not be mean to him and call him stupid, Izuku told the vestiges sternly. He's been told that enough in his life due to his quirk. Izuku threw out Black Whip and flung himself up onto the nearest roof. Sorry, kid, Third muttered. Won't make the mistake again. Izuku nodded resolutely as he ran across the rooftops, searching for movement. He got 3 buildings down before Ida ran past him. He clicked his headpiece on as quickly as he could. Ida incoming, 30 seconds out, full speed. Copy that, Shoto said. Izuku kept running and felt the air grow colder. Shoto must have frozen Ida then, and hopefully captured him. He perched on the side of the roof and looked down at the streets when a slight movement caught his eye. Sneaky little twerp that one is, Banjo huffed. Guys, I have eyes on Hagakure, Izuku said. She's following Ida's path and attempting to stick to the shadows, though it seems she needs more stealth training. Keep going, nerd. We'll keep an eye out for her, Kachan huffed. Ida has been captured, Nezu cheered out over the speakers in the arena. Good work, you guys, Izuku whispered, as he continued his path toward the opposing team's base. Deku! Uraraka shouted. Shit, got eyes on Uravity, Izuku whispered. Kick her ass, Second shouted. Don't forget you can fly too with my quirk, Nana reminded. Ruin her, nerd, Kachan said over the headpiece, and Izuku could hear the smirk he wore. Gladly, Izuku responded, before launching into the sky to meet Uraraka. She was floating in the space between two buildings, one of her cords wrapped around a fire escape. You know, Uraraka, Izuku said with a smirk. You may be able to float, but you can't fly. He used air force to propel himself forward towards the girl, whose eyes had widened in shock. Uravity slapped his arm, which was only effective in making his shirt weightless. Tell me how you got your quirks, Uraraka cried out. She used the motion that resulted from hitting him to propel to the side and dropped her quirk to land on the roof, which also released the weight on his shirt. They're inherited. What can I say? Izuku laughed, dropping down to meet her on the roof and immediately activating smokescreen. The rooftop was covered in smoke, but Izuku was prepared to not see Uraraka as he used float and black whip to propel himself 2 rooftops away. Is all that smoke from you, or did Katsuki blow a building up? Shoto asked over the comms. Just me. Have you found Hagakure yet? Izuku asked. Just found her, Kachan huffed. Shoto, get your ass over here, a block northeast from the base. Coming, Shoto responded grumpily, causing Izuku to laugh. Hitoshi, Kaminari, northwest and make your way to the base, Izuku directed. Leave the flag. We have a guaranteed win. Copy. On our way, Hitoshi responded. So, you plan on defeating the brat or leaving her for the others? Third huffed. Let's combine some quirks and freak her out by sending her over to Kachan and Shoto once they've captured Hagakure, Izuku said, watching as the smoke started to clear. On your 12, Yoichi shouted. That's his 6, dumbass. Hikage corrected, danger sense activating as well. Izuku jumped into the air using float and spun to see Asui landing where he'd been standing. Asui has engaged. Let me know when you have Hagakure so I can send one of the girls your way, Izuku whispered hurriedly, thinking of all of his options. Give up, Kero, Asui demanded. It's soon to be 2-on-1. And why do you assume that? Izuku asked, making sure with danger sense that Uraraka wasn't approaching yet. At first I assumed the smoke was Bakugo, but there haven't been any explosions, Asui explained. Therefore, I'm left to assume that it's one of your many quirks. Izuku shrugged, staying in the air and sitting cross-legged. Perhaps, perhaps not. Asui narrowed her eyes before throwing out her tongue, but Izuku used Black Whip to counter the attack while still sitting. He could hear the sounds of fighting over his headpiece, and just as Asui jumped for a new attack, he also heard Uraraka approaching. Izuku grabbed Asui's arm and spun her back to the roof, feeling like he was on a merry-go-round as he activated gear shift and accelerated the force of her jump. Asui went flying back into the roof just as Uraraka finally reached them, Izuku still spinning in circles. I could go with this all day without even standing up, Izuku cackled. With how much you deny being a villain, you play the part very well, Uraraka snapped, helping Asui to her feet. Izuku shrugged again, his eyes hardening in anger as he sent out Black Whip to stop him from spinning and face the girls full on. Maybe you should have thought twice before labeling me as a villain, Uraraka. 14 years of harassment, abuse, and discrimination can easily turn one to villainy if they don't have the right mindset, and even with a change of environment, that mentality never goes away. Uraraka and Asui's eyes widened in fear and shock, respectively, as they both took a step back from their classmate. Izuku slowly lowered himself down to the roof, standing to face them. I easily could have become a villain, he said, taking another step forward. I easily could have committed suicide. Another step. Yet instead, I followed my dream to become a hero. He was now standing directly in front of them, and they were both shaking. You should be thankful for that. Hagakure has been captured, Nezu chirped, sounding extra gleeful. 3 blocks directly south of you, Shota said into the headpiece at the same time as Nezu's announcement, sounding out of breath as he ran. Izuku smirked at the girls and took a step back. But I'll throw you a bone just this once. Don't read a book by its cover. He activated Black Whip and wrapped the 2 girls in it before launching them towards his friend and boyfriend. A slope of ice shot into the sky 2 blocks down, but Izuku was already running again. He reached the base just as Nezu announced the girls' capture, and he smirked. Only 1 person left as well as the flag, and then they had a complete victory. Kaminari and Hitoshi reached the building seconds after he did, and Izuku dropped down to the street using Black Whip. Kaminari jumped, and Hitoshi rolled his eyes at the action. Kaminari, cut the building's power. The breaker's on the left side of the building, halfway down the alley. Yes, Kaminari stuttered, running towards the breaker box. Shoto, Kachan. Izuku called over the headpiece, waiting for an affirmation from both of them, before continuing. Head back to base, we'll be there soon. What's the plan? Hitoshi asked. I'm going to distract Aoyama, and you'll brainwash him while Kaminari grabs the flag. Then I'll bring all of us back to base. Hitoshi nodded just as the power inside the building went out, causing a shriek to come from inside. Kaminari quickly ran around the corner to meet them again. I'll distract, Izuku said. Hitoshi, adjust your vocal cords to match my voice, and Kaminari, go around to retrieve the flag. Meet back here when we're done. Hitoshi was already adjusting his mask as Izuku ran into the building using danger sense to detect where Aoyama was and letting off a small percentage of smokescreen to obscure the boy's vision. What's happening? Aoyama cried out. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be easy. And what exactly did you expect to be so easy? Hitoshi asked in Izuku's voice, hiding in the shadows. Izuku could barely see Kaminari inching his way around the room to get to the other side, but Aoyama was still blocking the doorway. Aoyama's words were cut off, and Izuku almost wished they weren't, but ignored the extra ringing of danger sense as Hitoshi forced Aoyama to tie himself up with the capture tape and move away from the door. Izuku let smokescreen go as he stepped back outside, waiting for the others to finish their tasks. He's the traitor, Hikage said determinedly. Looking back, he was constantly feeding into people's opinions and twisting Izuku's image, Third noted. We don't know this for a fact yet, Izuku countered. Danger sense doesn't lie, kid, Hikage huffed. He was literally about to say infiltrated, not much to argue against, Nana added softly. We've got the flag, Kaminari shouted, effectively cutting off the vestiges. Good, let's go, Izuku said when he turned and saw Hitoshi there as well. Hope you like flying. He wrapped his friends in Black Whip and used Air Force and float to propel them back to the base. As soon as they stepped inside, they were greeted with Kachan, Shoto, and an announcement of their win. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 17 of The Fall of Icarus. Chapter 18 will be up next. Just a few more chapters to go in this fic. Let me know your thoughts and reactions below, and as always, thank you all so much for listening.